Good morning, friends. Happy Tuesday. Today is Tuesday, May 19th, and we have a new text for Read Aloud. Now, just like every video, I'm going to go through how you can get to these materials, and I'm going to put the link to the distance learning folder and the folder for the materials for this lesson in the description underneath the video. So we're going to go to our distance learning folder. Then we make sure we click on the first grade folder. We're going to go to Read Aloud. We're going to go to May 18th to May 22nd, and then we'll go to Tuesday, May 19th, because that is where our materials are going to be. All right, now let's get into it. Today we have an article, and I'm pretty sure you can all tell what genre this article is going to be, seeing as we have read quite a few of these articles. But I am still going to flip through the pages, and we're going to figure out what genre it is, and you're also going to try and look for the text features that are in this article. So I will give you about 30 seconds to do that, and we'll go over it together after. Go ahead. All right, so from the text features that we have seen in the article, we can tell that the genre of this text is nonfiction. And we're going to go through the nonfiction text features so we can prove that it is in fact nonfiction. All right, so this picture on the front, even though it's not a photograph, um, we can still tell that this is going to be a nonfiction text because of who the picture is of. This is a picture of Abraham Lincoln, and he was a real person. And in the title of the article, it says Lincoln the Leader. And Lincoln, President Lincoln, was the president of our country more than 150 years ago. So he was a real person, and this article is going to teach us about him. So for text features, we have a title, we have headings. Let's see, what does this say? Ooh, how did Abe Lincoln lead? That is an important question that is in one of the headings of this article. We also have these headings down here. Abe listened to others. Abe knew how to cool down. Abe shared his ideas. We see some bolded words too. And on the back, we have this diagram here. Now, again, these are not photographs. These are probably oil paintings. It's a special type of paint. But because Abraham Lincoln and George Washington were presidents so long ago, photographs were not all that common. So it was a lot more common for presidents to sit and be painted, have a picture painted of them for hours. Like today, we can just whip out our cell phones and start taking pictures, but back then that wasn't the case. So even though there are no photographs in this article, this is still a nonfiction article. So let's go over those text features one more time. We've got titles, there you go, headings, bolded words, and a diagram. There we go. We've got titles, headings, bolded words, and a diagram. Now we're going to read through the entire article to see if we can figure out the main topic, because that's the next question. What is the main topic of this article? So I'm going to start reading, and you guys should follow along. Lincoln the Leader. Abraham Lincoln was our president more than 150 years ago. It's a long time ago. Being the leader of a country is a hard job. What do you think a great leader does? Okay, so we know that we're going to be learning about Abraham Lincoln and his time as a leader in our country. How did Abe Lincoln lead? As you read, think about the different things a leader does. So that's important to think about while we're reading this article because you're going to be writing about that in your exit ticket. So have that question in the back of your mind. See if you can think about it while we're reading because that's going to help you when you do your exit ticket. So, how did Abe Lincoln lead? Abe listened to others. Being president is a hard job, so Abe picked people to help him. These helpers sometimes did not agree about what Abe should do. They had different opinions or ideas. Abe listened to everyone's opinions. He thought about what each person said. Then he chose what to do. Abe knew how to cool down. Abe tried his best to be patient and kind, but sometimes he got really angry. He didn't want to yell and shout. Instead, he wrote a hot letter to help him cool down. A hot letter was a letter to the person he was angry with. When he was done writing, he put the letter away. He felt less angry. So let me explain this a little bit. So sometimes, when you get really, really angry and sometimes you say things that are really mean, but you don't really mean them, you're just really mad. That happens to everybody. And this happened to Abraham Lincoln as well. So when he got mad, instead of going out and yelling at the person who made him mad, he got a piece of paper and this is called a quill. He got a quill and some ink and some paper, and he would write a letter to the person who made him mad. Now, he was never going to send the letter. This was just so that his feelings would be outside of his body. So it would feel like kind of like a weight has been lifted off of him and he could clear his head again. So he could feel less angry and he could be a more patient and, a more patient leader. So let's keep going. Abe shared his ideas. There was no TV or internet in Abe's time. What? There was no TV and no internet? Let's read that again. There was no TV or internet in Abe's time. Oh, crazy, but it's true. He gave speeches to share his ideas. He stood in front of large crowds. He let people know what he thought. Sometimes Abe's words were serious. Sometimes they were funny. His speeches were printed in newspapers. If you couldn't hear him talk, you could read what he said. So not everybody in the whole country could come and hear him speak at the same time. The country is and was very big, um, and people back then didn't have cars or planes um, or they weren't able to use them as easily as we are now to come and see Abraham Lincoln speak. So if you couldn't come and see him speak, they would print what he said in the newspaper and then they could read it at home. Um, all right, let's move on to the diagram. Two great presidents. George Washington was another great president. Use the chart below to answer the questions. All right, we're just going to read through the diagram because I have some other questions for you that we're going to use the diagram for. If you want to, as a bonus, you should feel free to answer these questions, but we're going to just go over the diagram right now. So you've got George Washington here, and you've got Abe Lincoln over here. Abe is short for Abraham. George Washington was the very first president of the United States. Abraham Lincoln was the 16th. So he was president a long time after George Washington. George Washington wore a tricorn hat. So this is tricorn. Tri means three. So this has 3 points on the hat. Abe Lincoln wore a stovepipe hat. That's what they called this shape hat because it's very tall and it's shaped like a stovepipe. George Washington, his face is on the $1 bill, and Abraham Lincoln's face is on the $5 bill. So they were both presidents. They were presidents at different times. They wore different hats, and their faces are on different money. Also, as I'm sure you've seen in Miss Reli's videos, the George Washington is also on the quarter, the coin, the quarter, and Abraham Lincoln is on the penny, but that's not in this diagram. All right, so let's answer the next question. What is the main topic of this article? What is this article about? What is it teaching us about? So I'm going to go back here. This is where the meat of the article is. So take about 30 seconds and see if you can come up with the main topic all by yourselves. Go ahead. All right, so this entire article we know is about Abraham Lincoln. But it's a bit more specific than that because if it was just about Abraham Lincoln, it would be about his entire life from when he was a baby all the way up until he died. Now, this is just a very short article. It's 4 pages, and it goes a little bit more specific than just his whole life. So, on the front cover, actually, the title is a great phrase to describe what this article is about. Lincoln the leader. So, Lincoln wasn't always president, but he was a leader for most of his adult life. So and the inside or these 2 pages of the article here explain how Abraham Lincoln led or how did Abe Lincoln lead. So the main topic of this article is Abe or Lincoln the leader, Abraham Lincoln the leader, Abe Lincoln the leader, or just Lincoln the leader, because it's about the ways that Abraham Lincoln was a leader. All right, now we have 2 more questions, but we're going to exit out of the presentation mode so we can look at this. What does the word opinions mean? All right, the word opinions, that's the word that we have to look for. Luckily, opinions is a bolded word right here. Let's see, can we zoom? No, maybe, no. No. Okay, so let's look at this text right here, and we're going to read it to see if we can figure out what the word opinions means. Being president is a hard job, so Abe picked people to help him. These helpers sometimes did not agree about what Abe should do. They had different opinions or ideas. Abe listened to everyone's opinions. He thought about what each person said. Then he chose what to do. All right, so you might already have an idea of what the word opinions means. Yep, but we're gonna look at these 3 options right here. We have books, ideas, or names. Um, so when we go back to this article, we actually see that it tells us the definition right in this sentence. Remember, if there's a comma after a bolded word, most likely the definition is going to be after the comma. So let's read this sentence. They had different opinions or ideas. Now, is ideas one of our options? It is. Ideas is one of our options. Now, I'm going to put a star next to it. I'm not going to circle it yet because um, we haven't ruled out the other 2 options. Now, to make sure that these books and names are not the answer, we're going to substitute those words for the word opinion. So let's you do books first. They had different books or ideas. Mm, that doesn't really make sense, but let's read the next sentence, substituting the word books just to make sure. Abe listened to everyone's books. Abe listened to everyone's books? I don't think so. Abe might have read everyone's books, but listening, that doesn't sound right. So let's cross out books. Books is not the correct answer, or one of the correct answers. And we think ideas is one of the answers. Now we have to think. Now we have to figure out if names is one of the correct answers. So let's go back. They had different names or ideas. All right. So names, ideas. Do those two things mean the same thing? Names, ideas. Nope. Those don't mean the same thing. So we're going to cross out names as well, and we're going to circle ideas. Names is not the correct answer. Ideas is the only correct answer. Letter B. That's the correct answer. All right, the last question on that first page. We got some true or false questions. So, using the diagram on the last page, are these sentences true or false? Write T for true and F for false. All right, so let's remind ourselves what that diagram looks like. It's right here. I'm going to see if I can make this a little bigger. Excuse me. This is saying no. Nope, we cannot make it bigger. So let's try our best to look at it like this. All right, the first question. George Washington was the first president. All right, let's go back to this diagram right here. We're going to look for George Washington. It says he was the first president and Abraham Lincoln was the 16th president. So George Washington is the first president. George Washington was the first president. That is true. Now, use the diagram yourselves to see if you can figure out whether the second sentence is true or false. Abraham Lincoln wore a tricorn hat. Look at the diagram, see if Abraham Lincoln wore a tricorn hat. Go ahead. All right, so Abraham Lincoln is right here. And down here, we can see the type of hat that he wore. He did not wear a tricorn hat, he wore a stovepipe hat. So the sentence Abraham Lincoln wore a tricorn hat is false. That is false. All right, third one. George Washington's face is on the $1 bill. George Washington's face is on the $1 bill. See if you can figure out whether that's true or false using this diagram. George Washington's face is on the $1 bill. Go ahead. All right, so we're seeing if George Washington was on the $1 bill. So the money's down here and George Washington is here. Let's go from George Washington's face all the way down to the dollar bill. Right here it says his face is on the $1 bill. All right, George Washington's face is on the $1 bill. That is true. All right, last one. Abraham Lincoln was born in a log cabin. All right, so this question is not actually on this diagram right here. It's down here. Down here it says, the 16th president was born in a log cabin. So we have to figure out who the 16th president was and if he was born in a log cabin. So go ahead. All right, so I see 16th president up here, and that is right under Abraham Lincoln. So that means that Abraham Lincoln is the 16th president. So we can substitute the words the 16th president with Abraham Lincoln. Abraham Lincoln was born in a log cabin. Let's see. Abraham Lincoln was born in a log cabin. That is the same. That means that it is true. So you should have true, false, true, 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 false, true, 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 false, true, true. All right, now we can move on to the exit ticket. The exit ticket today is asking, what are the three things that Abraham Lincoln did that helped him to become a good leader? How did they help? Remember to use text evidence and write in complete sentences. All right, so we're going to go back up to where these two pages right here because it actually has this question up here. Think about the different things a leader does. So, what does Abraham Lincoln do to be a good leader? Um, and each of these sections is actually its own idea. So, one thing that Abraham Lincoln did was he listened to others. He listened to others' opinions or ideas. And from listening to those people, he decided what was best to do for the whole nation, for the entire country. And listening to other people makes sure that everyone's voice is being heard um, when you are making a decision for a large group of people. So that's the first way that Abraham Lincoln was a good leader. You're going to write down the other two as well. So you have three ways that Abraham Lincoln was a good leader, and you have to say why these things that Abraham Lincoln did made him a good leader. So he listened to others, he knew how to cool down, and he shared his ideas. But why do those things make him a good leader? Use the text evidence in here to answer your question, and remember to use your neatest handwriting. Now remember, I'm going to put the links to the distance learning folder and the folder for today's materials in the description under this video, so you should know exactly where to find it. All right, my friends, I will see you tomorrow for another Read Aloud. Have a good rest of your day. Bye, friends.